In life, there is life, and after life comes death. I've already talked about death, but I haven't talked much about what comes after it. The afterlife, which, as far as I'm concerned, should actually be called the after death, but afterlife it is. Now, a lot of religions have their different views on what the afterlife should be like. Maybe for some, it isn't even an afterlife, it's just a rebirth, a new cycle. Well, for me, oh, yeah, and I do have to mention that I'm of mixed opinions. One part of me really does believe that there's just nothing, but I don't like that theory. It's the like one part of me which goes like as far as we know, there is nothing. I don't like that, and nothing is very easily explainable, so let me explain what I think about the afterlife if it does actually exist. Imagine your life is a video, okay? It keeps being added to, and it's recording all of this stuff, and then it ends. You die, and your video ends, and then it gets uploaded somewhere to some database, and that's history, okay? Your video actually, while it's being made, is simultaneously being uploaded to history, and then it stays in history. It doesn't get longer, it doesn't get shorter. Maybe its title changes depending on the views of the time. Maybe it acquires comments, likes, dislikes. All of these things are possible, but the video itself does not change. Some people might even take it down. It might get burned, it might get lost, but what happens to you? If your life was that video, then what happens to you when it stops? Well, there's a few options, and one of my favorite is that, well, you get transported somewhere else, okay? This is interesting because it it just it layers, right? If you get transported somewhere else when you die, then it doesn't matter if you live forever or not in that place. If you die, you can just get transported somewhere else again. This is kind of the easy way out as far as I see it. And since it's easy, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because it's just life continuing as the same person in a different place. So it's basically just life continuing, but you moved house, which it's too boring. Okay, if I die and that happens to me, I'm not, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna be grateful that my conscience still exists. No, the first thing I'm gonna say is fuck whoever made this system. I'm gonna be hella bored. Okay? Because life forever, nah, man. The point, I think, of your life as a conscience or as a spirit, even continuing, is for you to gain constant new experiences of it. This can't happen if you live forever, because forever encompasses a finite, like it's an infinite time to gain a, as far as I think, finite amount of experience that you can with this world. So what I think is one of my favorite is that you get reborn. Quite a lot of cultures have this. A lot of them focus on you not just getting randomly reborn, but on you getting reborn based on your karma, your good deeds, your bad deeds, your rebirth as something else. But what I think would be really cool is if you just get reborn as a random thing, okay? Somebody rolled the celestial multi-billion sided dice, multi-trillion maybe even, and you get reborn somewhere as something, and your conscience is wiped. Now, you might think then, well, what's the point? And the point is that there is no point. It's the perfect compromise, because even though it might be you, your spirit or whatever, if your conscience gets wiped of all its memories of the past, you're just brand new. And so usually people would say, well, if your spirit was good enough, you'd be resurrected as a human again, and you could work on your spirit more and reach higher and higher ascendance. But that's not fun. Again, that proposes that there is a finite amount you can achieve. But I like it when I have an infinite amount of achievement because it's no longer me, okay? I get beamed in with a new conscience and the same spirit, but this same spiritness doesn't matter. It's just the cycle of life and death where death is the end, but it's not, so that I don't have to be afraid of it. I think it's a perfect compromise. But then I find myself never using that as my like actual definition of the afterlife. For example, for D&D games or any stories that I want to write, I always picture the afterlife, and I always call it the after death, but I'll call it the afterlife so people don't get confused. I always picture the afterlife as just a place filled with souls, and the concept of souls is a bit vague to me, because if it's your conscience, but if your conscience is different from your soul, or is it one thing, and does it have like an aura, like your personality? But if your personality can change at your own will, then can you just change that? Can you change that in the afterlife, or is that like a stasis spot? To all of these questions, I answer extremely ambiguously, because the places I use my version of the afterlife always require any of these to be possible so that the story can progress. But what I see is just the plane of grayness. It's just a gray, flat plane filled with everything that has ever died that has a conscience, and those consciences are just, you know, blobs, and they just move around. I don't think they can even interact with each other. No, they just get extremely bored. Ancient Greece, I think, had an extremely similar thing to this, where your memory, however, is wiped. But I really think that if your memory shouldn't be wiped, no, instead, you should be able to take anybody's history video, you know, video of their life, and play it, watch it. Make it go slowly so you can overanalyze every single little detail. This provides an infinite amount of content until the imminent heat death of the universe, which, I don't know. I think the afterlife should maintain after that. You have so much footage to go through and comb through and analyze every single part that you can probably wait until the next Big Bang or whatever happens. We're not very sure, actually, what happens there. And I'm not going to get into that because I know at least one person who will then scold me for getting it all wrong. They know who they are. But I think that the perfect afterlife is just you being provided with all of the records of history and being able to comb through them endlessly, really, until you find every single little detail. But then again, I also have thoughts about you know what a soul has to be like in the afterlife, and this blob, this idea of a blob of a soul just whirling around the atmosphere on the wisps of air, which is destiny, is a bit like a plane. Okay, so your soul is a plane, and it has wings, and those wings are your actions. And as your life progresses, your soul gets heavier with like a plane has cargo. Okay, so your plane, as you progress through the video of life, gets filled with cargo, which is memories and regrets and happiness. And then your wings get longer, cause your wings get longer, cause your life is going on, and the engineer that is your brain builds more wings for you, and you can fly more, and sometimes little birds will come and peck on the windshield, and you can decide what that is a metaphor for. And then some people will boost you, okay? They give you more engines, and you can fly faster or for longer, and then at some point your wings break. Now, when your wings break, it's a problem because usually when your wings break, you've lost some of your life and you're not able to carry all of that cargo anymore. So you gotta throw it out like a hot air balloon. Okay, so your hot air balloon with wings filled with cargo that you're actively throwing out because your wings are constantly breaking because of the stress of human life. Um, is not sustainable. Okay, it's not a perpetual motion machine, and at some point it's going to run out of gas. Now, sometimes if your wings break too early, you doesn't matter if you ran out of gas, all that cargo is going to drag you down. And the further you go, the less your wings have to break for the cargo to drag you down, and the less time you have to release that cargo so it can drag you back up again. But at some point, if you've lived a life where you balanced your wing to cargo ratio actively, then your gas still runs out and you plummet to your death because you're an idiot, and human life is like that. So now you're in the desert of the afterlife. So now you're not on your hot air balloon anymore. And there's so many more crashed hot air balloons. But you've hit the ground so hard you got amnesia. And you're with all of these other humanoid figures that look pretty much like you. But they all have like different clothes or something. And you manage to like salvage a bit of cargo. And so all of the cult is formed in the desert of the afterlife, and everybody brings their cargo to the great statue of cargo. And you, with your amnesia, can at any point access any of the cargo, look through it, dig around, maybe even throw some out and go, oh yes, this relates to this and that relates to that, and more people are going to be crashing and they're going to bring new cargo, and whenever new cargo comes, you're like, ooh, this is the new stuff. This is the new stuff. But some people, because they wanted to live longer, they threw some of the cargo out. Okay, they selectively forgot some memories or some happiness or some regret, managed to get over it and threw it out so that their wings could fly longer over the desert of life and death. But they still bring some cargo with you. And that's the point. That's why it's not an interactable system. Okay? The people who have crashed into the desert of death cannot interact with the hot air balloons of people who are managing their wings at the top, who are still alive, but they can pick apart the cargo that the dead people bring with them to know about what's happening with the living, sure, like a generation later than it actually happens, but when you're faced with a seemingly infinite desert of time, what should time be? What a desert erodes eventually. We'll just call it time. I think time stays time. You have so much time that it doesn't matter for one generation, but the dead people are launching from the hot air balloons. And some people, some of them, they have, different beliefs. So the people who think this is a new place think this is a new place and they're having a new place. The people who think it should just all end, well, fuck the people who think it should just all end. If they want it to all end, they can put a blindfold on their eyes and earplugs in their ears and cover themselves in styrofoam and pretend that nothing is happening to them. And the people who want to be rebirthed, well, I guess if you build a high enough tower of cargo and then a human stepladder, you can launch one of them onto an empty air balloon with new wings. That could work. But sometimes, and okay, when you have so many hot air balloons, the more hot air balloons you have, the less airspace you have over your desert of life and death. And so they're going to start crashing. This is a great metaphor for overpopulation. The wings of actions of the hot air balloons of life with running out gas and too much cargo start to clash with each other because there's a limited airspace over the desert of life and death, and they all tumble, but sometimes they'll join together and they'll form groups. Now they have a lot more wings with spread out cargo, and they can dump cargo onto each other. This is like people dumping their worries onto you. But some people can take them, and then the others boost that person so that they can carry them on like a string of their life over the plains of the endless desert. But what if the desert isn't endless? Well, it should be, because we don't know how long something can live, right? What if there's dogs in those hot air balloons? Okay, there's dogs. Now what? But some things live longer than dogs. There's things like some jellyfish, I think, have the genes to just live forever, or some like bacteria or something. Well, those things just keep flying. They just keep flying on their wings until something goes wrong. And if nothing goes wrong, then they're good. They can just keep flying because the desert is endless. At some point, though, enough people are gonna crash land. Oh, and this actually explains why. Because, imagine a lot of people who die of old age, they crash land from their hot air balloon wings in the same place in the endless desert or on the same like horizontal line. And it's easier to get their cargo into one place. But the people who die, for example, younger, they've got it all together. And so this is what relation is. So as you're in your hot air balloon flying over the desert of death, you can look down and you can see a lot of different pieces of cargo lying around. And you can see where there's more, where there's less, and you can maybe kind of orientate yourself to where you want to just cut the strings on your balloon and plummet down. This is called suicide. I don't recommend it to anyone. Never tried it personally. But I don't think it's a nice experience because you're just kind of falling, and then midway you kind of decide, well, I really should not have done that. But now you're falling, and it's impossible for you to get your gas running again, and your cargo is weighing you down, and you're thinking about all of your cargo, but you don't want to throw it out anymore because it seems like that memory of you stripping down to your pants and primary school because the bullies were bullying you is suddenly resurfacing in your memory, and then your wings, they start to falter because you're not supposed to be going down this fast, so they just kind of shred away like they're going like re-entering orbit. I think I've covered a lot of stuff now, so yeah, goodbye.